My name is Sophia Lynn, and I'm the kind of woman people forget is in the room. I work in marketing at a mid-sized tech company. Numbers, narratives, quiet deadlines. 8 months ago, I started dating Andrew, who worked in sales. We met at a company happy hour. He was charming in a low-effort way, confident without being loud. When he asked for my number, I remember thinking, maybe this time I won't be the afterthought. Andrew texted first, planned the first few dates, made me feel chosen. I wasn't used to that. We'd been together about 6 months, long enough for routines to form. Morning coffees, late night texts, half jokes about meeting parents over Christmas. I let myself believe it meant something. Then came last Friday. I was working late, polishing a campaign proposal. Around 9 p.m., I went to grab coffee from the break room on the sales floor. Better machines, better beans. I remember feeling small relief, something warm to get me through the night. On my way back, I heard laughter. The conference room door was cracked open. I recognized the laugh immediately. Andrew's ex-girlfriend. I was about to knock to say hi when I heard my own name. I honestly didn't think Sophia would last this long, Andrea said, amused. She's more desperate than I thought. I froze. Andrew laughed. My boyfriend laughed. When we started this, he said, I figured 2 months, maybe 3 if I played it right. Another voice chimed in. How much are you up to now? About 1,500, Andrea replied casually. If I keep her hooked until New Year's, I win the whole pot. They all laughed. My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the coffee. She really thinks you're serious, huh? Someone said. That's the trick, Andrea replied. Give her just enough attention so she keeps trying, not enough to feel secure. More laughter. I don't remember leaving the hallway. I don't remember getting to my car. I sat there for nearly an hour, staring at the steering wheel, replaying every moment of the past 6 months. The canceled dates. The way Andrew pulled away whenever I seemed confident. The sudden affection when I stopped asking questions. I wasn't a girlfriend. I was a game. But here's the part that matters. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't send a single text. I went home, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and thought, if Andrew wanted to play games, I could play too. And I was going to be much better at it. The next morning, Andrew texted like nothing happened. Andrew, good morning, Soph. Busy today? Andrew, I'll swing by later. Miss you. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. 6 months ago, those messages would have lit up my chest like a warm lamp. Now they felt like someone tapping a knife against a glass. Soft, polite, and threatening. I typed back exactly what he expected. Me. Morning. Have a good day. I'll be at my desk. Come say hi when you can. Then I set my phone down and did something I've always been good at. I became invisible. At work, people like me because I'm useful. I don't stir drama. I don't take up oxygen. I deliver on deadlines and smile at the right moments. That's what made Andrew and his friends so comfortable saying my name like I wasn't real. So I leaned into it. I volunteered to help plan a company event. Nothing major. Just a quarter-end mixer. It put me close to finance reports, expense submissions, vendor emails. It gave me an excuse to float between departments without anyone asking why. Wow, Sophia, you're on top of everything, one of the sales reps said with a grin as I carried a stack of printed menus. I laughed lightly. I just like things organized. He didn't realize I wasn't organizing the event. I was organizing them. For the first week, I only listened. In the kitchen area, I heard Andrea complain about how marketing people are so needy, and one of her friends laughed and said, as long as Andrew keeps her chasing, it's fine. In a meeting, another sales guy, Raymond, made a joke about creative accounting when someone asked how he always managed to get reimbursed for high-end dinners. I didn't react, I just sipped my coffee. Later, while printing flyers for the mixer, I overheard Dean, the smooth, always smiling senior rep, step into the hallway and lower his voice. No, I can't talk now, he murmured into his phone. I'm in the office. I'll see you after. His tone wasn't work. It was intimate. And then there was Andrew. He came by my desk, leaned on the side of my cubicle like he belonged there, and smiled at me with that easy confidence that used to feel safe. Hey, he said, how's my favorite girl? My stomach turned, but my face didn't change. I stood, kissed his cheek like I always did. Long night, I said softly, but I'm okay. He squeezed my hand, just enough pressure to look affectionate. Don't work too hard, you know I worry. I almost laughed. I nodded instead. I know. When he walked away, he didn't look back. Why would he? To him, I was background noise. A loyal, quiet girlfriend who would never be brave enough to bite. That assumption was the first thing I used against him. Over the next couple of weeks, I became the person everyone forgot to watch. I offered to pick up coffee for the sales floor in the morning, since you guys always work so hard. I made it sound like admiration, like gratitude. They ate it up. I'd walk in with a tray, and they'd light up like I was a helpful little accessory. Andrea's eyes would flick over me sometimes. Not wary, more like bored. "Oh my God, Sophia, you're such a sweetheart," she said one morning, taking her latte. "Andrew's lucky." I replied, smiling like I didn't know her mouth had shaped my name into a joke. Then I'd drift away like mist. In the afternoon, I'd accidentally be near the conference rooms when sales had their off-hours strategy meetings. I didn't need to press my ear to doors. People who think you're harmless talk loudly. I started hearing patterns. Lydia, Andrea's closest friend, always seemed to get the best accounts, the high-value clients, the ones everyone wanted. And every time she landed one, she'd giggle with Andrea afterward like they'd pulled off something naughty. "Luck's been on your side," someone said to Lydia once. She smirked. "Or maybe I'm just better than you." I watched her walk away and thought, people who brag like that always have dirt under their nails. I didn't go hunting for proof right away. I built a map first. Who talked to who avoided who suddenly went quiet when someone walked past. And Andrew's little circle had a rhythm. Andrea was the spark. Andrew was the performer. Lydia fed on attention. Raymond fed on money. Dean fed on secrets. They moved like a pack, covering for each other, laughing for each other, making sure no one could isolate them long enough to see what they really were. That's why they felt untouchable. But careful isn't the same as invisible. And I had something they didn't. Time. I started staying late on purpose, just late enough to see who lingered after hours, who didn't clock out when they said they would. One night, I noticed Lydia leaving the building, phone pressed to her ear, voice soft. A man walked beside her, taller, older, wearing a blazer that screamed management. I recognized him immediately. Derek, a director with influence over account assignments. They didn't hold hands. They didn't need to. Their bodies said everything. I stood by the window, coffee cooling in my hand, and watched them step into the parking garage together like they'd done it 100 times. My heart didn't race. It steadied, because now it wasn't just revenge. It was leverage. At home that night, Andrew called. "I miss you," he said, voice low, like he was trying to sound sincere. I lay on my couch, staring at the ceiling. I murmured. "I miss you too." He sighed. "You sound tired." "I am, just work." "Come over tomorrow," he said. "I'll make it up to you." I could almost hear Andrea in the background of his life, like a shadow he didn't think I could see. "Okay," I said, sweet as sugar. "Tomorrow." When I hung up, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop, and I started a folder. Not with dramatic names, not revenge or exposed, just something boring. Q4 event notes. Inside, I began keeping track of everything that didn't make sense. Times, locations, dates, phrases. I wrote down what I'd heard in that conference room, word for word, as best as memory allowed. The way Andrea said desperate like it was a punchline. The way Andrew laughed. Then I pulled up the company directory. I looked at who reported to whom, who approved whose expenses, who had access to which accounts. The more I stared at the org chart, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a cruel joke about me. It was a network, a group of people who had gotten comfortable bending rules because they thought no one would ever challenge them. And I was going to challenge them without ever lifting my voice. A slow unraveling, a quiet storm. Because if they wanted to play games, I'd show them what a real game looked like. And the best part? Andrew still thought I was lucky to have him. He still leaned in close, kissed my forehead, and told me, "You're safe with me." I smiled back every time, because the truth was, he'd never been in danger from me before. Now he was sleeping beside it. The first rule of pulling a thread is simple. You don't yank. You let it slide between your fingers until the fabric starts coming apart on its own. I started with Andrea, not because she hurt me the most, but because she was careless. She liked attention, needed it, and people who crave attention always leave fingerprints. I didn't confront her. I didn't even avoid her. I stayed exactly where she expected me to be. Polite, warm, slightly grateful. One afternoon, she cornered me near the elevators. "You've been quiet lately," she said, tilting her head. "Everything okay with you and Andrew?" There it was, fishing. I smiled softly. "Yeah, just busy. You know how work gets." She nodded, satisfied. "Totally. Relationships are hard to balance." She had no idea how hard I was balancing. That night, I stayed late again. Not obvious late, just enough to notice patterns. Andrea always logged out at 6, but her badge scans told a different story. Derek's did too. I didn't need to hack anything. I didn't need passwords. I just needed access to information that already existed. Badge timestamps, shared calendars, conference room bookings labeled strategy review with no agendas attached. Once I lined them up, it was almost insulting how sloppy it was. Andrea and Derek had been meeting after hours for months. Hotel bars, restaurants far from the office, client dinners that never appeared on any client records. I waited another week, collected more. Then I sent one email, anonymous, clean, professional. A timeline, screenshots, photos of them entering and leaving hotels during work hours. I sent it to HR, and then to Derek's wife. Finding her was easy. She tagged him in everything, vacations, anniversaries. So proud of my husband, posts with smiling photos I couldn't look at for too long. I also sent the email to Andrea's boyfriend. 3 years together, according to his profile. He called her my future. By Tuesday afternoon, Andrea wasn't laughing anymore. She didn't come to work. By Wednesday, her desk was empty. People whispered. She was escorted out, someone said quietly in the break room. HR moved fast, another replied. Apparently this wasn't the first complaint about Derek. I kept my head down, fingers wrapped around my coffee cup. Andrew came to me that night, visibly shaken. Have you heard about Andrea? He asked, pacing my living room. I tilted my head. No, what happened? He rubbed the back of his neck. Something about HR, an investigation. Derek, too. It's bad. I watched him carefully. His concern wasn't about Andrea. It was about proximity. Do you think someone's targeting people? He asked. Like, intentionally? I met his eyes. Why would someone do that? He shrugged, uneasy. I don't know. It's just weird. I reached for his hand. Sometimes, I said gently, people get away with things for a long time. Then all at once, they don't. He squeezed my fingers. Yeah, you're right. Andrea's boyfriend blocked her on everything. Derek's wife filed for divorce within days. Andrea's social media went dark overnight. And through all of it, Andrew leaned on me, came over more often, texted more, needed reassurance. I gave it to him, because nothing makes people sloppier than fear. And Andrea wasn't the end. She was proof of concept. 2 days later, I opened my Q4 event notes folder and created a new subfolder. Raymond. Raymond thought he was smart. That was his mistake. Sales guys like him always brag just a little too much when they think they're among friends. Perks of the job, he'd say, waving off expensive dinners. Gotta spend money to make money. But expense reports don't lie. They sit there, quiet, waiting. And I had access to all of them. I spent 2 weeks cross-referencing his submissions. Receipts that didn't match reservation records, client meetings that never appeared in the CRM, dates where he claimed to be entertaining clients, while his social media tagged him at bars with women whose names never showed up in our database. It was almost boring how obvious it became once I knew where to look. I documented everything. $8,000 in fraudulent claims over 6 months, small enough to slip by unnoticed, until someone cared. I timed the email carefully. Thursday morning, right before the quarterly budget review. Finance was already combing through numbers. All I did was give them a reason to look closer. Raymond didn't even last a full day. By Friday afternoon, he was walked out by security, personal items in a cardboard box. Criminal charges followed. Andrew called me from work, voice tight. This is insane, he said. First Andrea, now Raymond. It's like someone's dismantling everyone. I sat on my couch, legs tucked beneath me. Maybe it's just consequences, I said calmly. He was silent for a moment. Do you think I should be worried? I smiled, though he couldn't see it. No, I said. You've never done anything wrong, right? He laughed nervously. Right, of course not. After we hung up, I closed my laptop and leaned back. 2 down. Andrew still didn't know. Still kissed me goodnight. Still told me he loved me. Words that tasted strange now. And while he slept beside me that night, breathing slow and easy, I opened one more folder. Dean. Because some people don't just deserve to fall. They deserve to be seen falling. Dean took longer. Not because he was cleaner. Because he was smarter. He knew where the lines were. He knew which rules bent quietly and which ones snapped loudly. And unlike Raymond, he didn't brag. He smiled, listened, played the role of the dependable senior rep everyone trusted. That kind of man always hides the worst damage. I didn't rush him. By then, Andrew was unraveling in small, telling ways. He checked his phone constantly, asked more questions than before, wanted reassurance, not affection. Do you think the company's unstable? He asked one night over dinner. Like maybe something's wrong internally? I set my fork down carefully. Why? He hesitated. It just feels like everything's falling apart. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. That's what it feels like when people stop covering for each other. He nodded slowly, like that made sense. And Dean? Dean was cheating. Not carelessly, not emotionally. strategically. Her name was Linda Morrison, a major client, a woman with power, money, and influence. She represented one of our biggest accounts, and Dean handled her personally. Too personally. I noticed it the way I noticed everything else, through patterns. He stepped out of meetings to answer messages that weren't work-related. His tone shifted when her name came up. He stayed late on days she visited the office, even when his calendar said otherwise. So I followed the data. Lunch meetings that stretched too long. Hotel loyalty points accumulating fast. Calendar invites deleted instead of declined. Then I saw them together. A restaurant across town, not close to the office, not close to Linda's company. Dean leaned across the table, smiling the way he never smiled at work. Linda touched his wrist. I took photos. After that, the truth spilled easily. Dean wasn't just cheating on his wife. He was feeding Linda information. Bid strategies, client weaknesses, internal timelines, things no one outside our walls should ever know. It was corporate betrayal wrapped in a personal affair, and the timing couldn't have been worse for him. Dean's wife, Laura, was 7 months pregnant. Her social media was full of soft lighting and rounded bellies, nursery photos, baby shower invitations. Everyone was celebrating their perfect little family. Everyone except Dean. I recorded him once. Not secretly, not illegally. One-party consent laws are very clear. He talked freely, casually, about keeping Linda happy and making sure Morrison Industries stays ahead. He laughed when he said it. That laugh stayed with me. When I had everything, I didn't hesitate. I sent the evidence to 5 places at once. HR Legal, the Morrison Industries Board, our 2 biggest clients affected by the leaked information, and Laura. By Tuesday afternoon, Dean was finished. He lost his job first, then his clients, then his marriage. Laura kicked him out the same day she found out. Morrison Industries terminated their contract immediately and launched an internal investigation of their own. Our other clients threatened lawsuits. Dean went from respected senior rep to liability in under 48 hours. Andrew came home pale. They're saying Dean might have cost the company millions, he muttered. It's insane. I poured him a drink. That happens when trust breaks. He stared at the glass. Do you think someone's doing this on purpose? I met his eyes, held them. Do you have something to be afraid of? I asked. His mouth opened, then closed. No, he said quickly. Of course not. That night he held me tighter than usual. Like I was the only solid thing left in his life. 3 people gone. 3 implosions. And Andrew still didn't understand the shape of the storm, but he felt it. He grew paranoid. Checked locks. Asked if I'd heard rumors. Wondered aloud if he should lay low at work. I listened. Encouraged him to talk. Because fear makes people honest. And honesty is dangerous when you're guilty. I already had everything I needed on him. The overpromising to clients. The expense padding. The earlier bets. 2 others before me. All documented. All real. The only thing left was timing. I didn't want Andrew exposed in a hallway or an HR office. I wanted him to understand. To sit across from me and hear himself. To realize that the quiet woman he underestimated had been awake the whole time. So I waited. Let him panic, let him cling, let him believe I was his safe place. Because the cruelest truth isn't that you lose everything. It's that you lose it to someone you never thought capable. And when the moment finally came, I was ready. By the time I decided to end it, Andrew was already hollowed out. 3 of his closest people gone in 5 weeks. Andrea vanished. Raymond facing criminal charges. Dean reduced to whispers and cautionary emails from management. Andrew didn't sleep anymore. He'd lie awake beside me, staring at the ceiling, breathing too fast. Sometimes he'd reach for me like he was afraid I might disappear too. Promise you're not going anywhere, he whispered one night. I turned toward him, rested my head on his chest. I'm right here, I said. And I was, just not in the way he thought. I planned the evening carefully. Thursday, his favorite meal. A good bottle of wine. I wanted him relaxed, open, soft. When he arrived, he kissed me like a man who needed reassurance. I let him. I always let him. Dinner was quiet, almost tender. Afterward, I poured the wine and sat across from him at the table. Andrew, I said calmly, we need to talk. His shoulders stiffened. That sounds serious. It is. I reached for my phone. I want you to listen to something. I hit play. The room filled with laughter. Honestly, didn't think Sophia would last this long. She's more desperate than I thought. If I keep her hooked until New Year's, I win the whole pot. Andrew's voice followed, laughing, mocking. The color drained from his face as the recording continued. Every word, every joke, every casual cruelty. When it ended, the silence stretched so long it started to hum. Sophia, he whispered. I've known for almost 2 months, I said, taking a sip of wine. That night you thought I was working late. His hands shook. You're mistaken, he stammered. That sounds bad, but... I stood and walked to the counter, pulled out a folder. Photos, screenshots, dates. Andrea, Raymond, Dean, laid out like exhibits. You want to know who sent the emails? I asked softly. Who compiled the evidence? Who watched everything collapse? He looked at me like I was a stranger. It was me. Andrew pushed his chair back, breathing hard. That's impossible, he said. You wouldn't even know where to start. I smiled. You'd be amazed what people say around someone they think is harmless. He fell to his knees. Actually fell. I'm sorry, he said, voice breaking. It started as a joke. I didn't think I'd feel anything, but I did. I do. I love you. Real tears now. Please, he begged. We can start over. I'll quit. I'll do anything. I knelt in front of him so we were eye to eye. No, I said gently. We can't. He sobbed. What do you want? He asked. Money? I'll pay you back. I'll give you everything. I shook my head. I don't want your money. I stood and opened my laptop. On the screen was an email draft. Subject: Evidence of workplace manipulation and betting schemes. HR. Senior leadership. Attachments included. All I have to do, I said, is hit send. And everything you are, everything you've built, disappears. He stared at the screen in terror. You're going to resign tomorrow, I continued. You'll say you got a better opportunity. You'll leave town, and you'll never contact me again. You can't make me, he whispered. I scheduled the email. Delivery set for 9 a.m. the next morning. I just did. Andrew collapsed. He left that night without packing. Friday morning, he resigned. By Sunday, he was gone. Andrew disappeared the way guilty people always do. Quietly, quickly, like someone hoping the world wouldn't notice the space he left behind. By Monday, his desk was cleared. HR sent out a bland email about career opportunities elsewhere. No farewell card, no goodbye drinks, just absence. Exactly as I'd planned. I woke up early that morning. Not from anxiety, not from fear, but from stillness. The kind that settles in after a storm finally passes. At 8:59 a.m., I opened my laptop. The scheduled email sat there waiting. I hovered over it for a long moment, not because I hesitated, but because I wanted to remember what it felt like to have power and not need to use it. At 9 a.m., nothing happened. The email stayed unsent. Andrew had chosen correctly. By the end of the week, the fallout was complete. Andrea was gone from the industry. I heard she'd taken a retail job in another city and moved back in with her parents. Derek's divorce was still grinding through the courts, draining him financially and professionally. Raymond's criminal case was moving fast. The finance team had uncovered more fraud than I ever documented. What I gave them was just the door. Dean was living in a small studio apartment, no ring on his finger, no job, and a child he'd only be allowed to see under supervision. Their lives didn't explode. They collapsed inward. Slow, quiet, permanent. And me? I turned in my resignation 2 weeks later. No drama, no speeches. Just a better offer in Seattle. 40% salary increase, clean title, fresh start. On my last day, I walked through the office one final time. The same hallways where I'd once felt small. The same break room where I'd overheard laughter that nearly broke me. No one looked twice, and that was fine, because I didn't need to be seen anymore. That night, in my nearly empty apartment, I poured one last glass of whiskey and sat on the floor, back against the couch. I thought about Andrew, not with anger, not even satisfaction. Just clarity. He thought I was weak because I was quiet. He thought patience meant desperation. He thought kindness meant compliance. He was wrong. The truth is, I never wanted to destroy anyone. I just refused to let them keep destroying others. There's a difference. Before I left, I deleted everything. The recordings, the folders, the evidence. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't need it anymore. Some lessons only need to be learned once. As I boarded my flight to Seattle, phone on airplane mode, I felt lighter than I had in years. A clean slate doesn't come from forgetting what happened. It comes from knowing exactly who you are now. And if there's one thing I hope Andrew never forgets, it's this. You don't lose to the loudest person in the room. You lose to the one who's watching, waiting, and learning.